Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this afternoon news report right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. We are broadcasting live here in our Washington, D.C. studio in Washington, D.C. As you can see, this is the Capitol building right behind me. Nancy Pelosi faces razor thin margin in House Speaker vote. Democrats hold the slimmest House majority in 20 years. Nancy Pelosi is expected to be re-elected House Speaker on Sunday, today, when the new session of Congress begins. But the coronavirus pandemic and a diminished majority leaves her with little room for errors as the California Democrats seek what will likely be her final term leading the House. Pelosi, 80, who has led and served House Democrats since 2003 and is the only woman to ever serve as Speaker, hasn't faced down a rebellion in her ranks like she did 2 years ago when 15 Democrats voted against her on the House floor after unsuccessfully trying to recreate a challenger. Democrats began the 117th Congress with a 222 to 211 majority, after losing about a dozen seats in the November elections. While the surprise losses led some members to question Pelosi's leadership, many of her would-be critics have pointed to her 2018 commitment to serve only 2 additional terms as Speaker, and the lack of any clear alternative candidate to justify their support for Pelosi this year. Pelosi needs a majority of votes from lawmakers present in the chamber to keep her gavel, giving her just 5 votes to spare if all members are in attendance. One New York House race remains too close to call, while a Louisiana seat will also remain vacant after Rep-elect Luke Litlow's death from COVID-19. Republicans are expected to back Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California. The coronavirus pandemic has complicated proceedings while the House allowed members to remain in their districts and vote by proxy during the pandemic. The rule will not be in effect for the first day of the new session, facing members to travel to Washington from their swearing in and first day of vote. They will also vote on the floor in waves, about 72 members at a time, to avoid crowding the chamber all at once. The process that will drag the Speaker's vote into Sunday evening. Party leaders urge members to travel carefully in a sign of how cautiously Democrat leaders are approaching the session. They requested travel information and flight numbers for members traveling back to Washington, according to 2 Democrats familiar with the inquiries. In his guidance, which requires all members of Congress to obtain a negative COVID-19 test before arriving in Washington, Monahan also encouraged lawmakers not to bring family members to Capitol Hill, which will which under normal circumstances would be teeming with the families and friends of lawmakers and new members taking their oath of office for the first time. Of the 15 Democrats who did not support Pelosi for Speaker 2 years ago, 3 lost their re-election races. New Jersey Rep. Jeff Van Drew switched parties over President Trump's impeachment last year, and Rep. Anthony of New York will not be seated in a court order re-vacant. At least 2 of the remaining 10 Democrat reps, Jason Crow of Colorado and Jim Cooper of Tennessee, have confirmed plans to vote for Pelosi, while Democrat aide believes Rep. Kurt Sanders of Oregon and Kathleen Rice of New York are likely to support her this year. Rice, a vocal critic of Pelosi's in the last session of Congress, who was passed over the seat on the House Judiciary Committee 2 years ago, was recently selected to join the influential House Energy and Commerce Committee over Rep. Alexander Cortez of New York, and has said little about her plans for the Speaker's vote. With Reps Jared Golden of Maine, Abigail of Virginia, and Connor Lamb of Pennsylvania expected to oppose Pelosi and write-in other candidates for Speaker. Pelosi can only afford 2 additional defections if all 433 members are present on Sunday today. Absences could help lower the threshold for Pelosi and ease her path to victory. At least 2 Republicans, Rep. Maria of Florida and David of California, have said they will miss the first days of session after recently testing positive for COVID-19, which could also lower the number of votes Pelosi needs to win the gavel. Rep. Gwen of Wisconsin, who disclosed her own COVID-19 infection less than a week ago, plans to attend the session, according to a spokesperson. It's not clear when Gwen first had the infection or how long she was in isolation. Her office did not respond to a follow-up question about her case. Rep. Rick of Washington, a Democrat, is also planning to travel to Washington following his COVID-19 isolation. Additionally, Rep. Alice, Democrat of Florida, is battling pancreatic cancer, while Rep. Jamie, Democrat of Maryland, announced on Thursday the sudden death of his 25-year-old son Tommy, a student at Harvard Law School. Alice, in a statement on Sunday, said she will not be attending the vote. Any last-minute infectious could further scramble the math for Pelosi, a possibility she alluded to on a call with Democrats last week when she said her opponent in the race is the virus, according to Democrat aide on the call. It's unlikely that any of the new House Democrats joining Congress this year will vote against Pelosi, though progressive could make life difficult for her moving forward if they band together on votes. Should Pelosi fail to win the majority of votes outright, the race would move to subsequent rounds of ballots until one candidate receives a majority of votes, a scenario that hasn't played out on the floor since 1920. 2023. And here is a live look. Currently, the House is in recess and subject to call of the chair. And that does it for this news report right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching this afternoon news report on the Riley King Network, and have a great rest of your Sunday. See you back here later on today with more news coverage. Goodbye.